And we are live. Hello, 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 and welcome to this week's episode of Plant the Spike, a Valorant podcast focused specifically on the VCT Americas region and other North American Valorant as it may come up. My name is Lance, and I'm joined by my day one co-host, Styx. Styx, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing very well. Ever since I've heard you mentioned this to me, I have been looking forward to it. So I'm excited because obviously you and I talk about Valorant and VCT over text,
hmm
especially when we're watching the matches. But I try to talk about it at home with mom and dad, and they kind of understand it a
Right,
little bit, but obviously they don't play the game, so and they don't get esports in general is the other thing. So it's
right.
one of those things that it's kind of hard to
Yes.
not be able to talk about it. So this is nice.
No, not quite the same when you're talking to people who don't really, don't really get it 100%. So, yeah, absolutely. I think that this should be a really awesome opportunity for us to talk about it on a regular basis. For you watching at home, whether you're watching this live or watching this through clips or whatever it may be, the goal with the podcast is to eventually make it an interactive podcast with you, the viewer, make it more of a call in style radio show podcast where you have the opportunity to plant your take. You have the opportunity to say what you have to say about what's going on, and you then will have to defend that, though. We're not going to let you just get off scot-free. You're going to have to say what you have to say and then tell us why that's the case and why that's correct. So today's episode and some of our other episodes, for the foreseeable future, will probably be a little less interactive in that regard if we don't get as many people. But if you want to be a part of this, all you have to do is join our Discord. Link for the Discord is going to be in the description of the YouTube video. It's also going to be on our TikTok, on our Instagram, on our Twitch. It's going to be everywhere. And the goal is to do this on a regular basis every Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern. Of course, that time and date is subject to change as well as we just figure everything out.
7 You said 7 p.m. Eastern,
I did say
Pacific.
7 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. So it won't be 7 p.m. Eastern because neither of us are home from work at that point. So that
Yep.
won't happen. So, but that's the hope. That's the thought, is that we'll make this regular. We'll make this interactive. You guys will be able to join in with us, and it should be fun.
Sounds like a good time.
Absolutely. Perfect. Well, typically in this section, we would start off the episode just talking maybe a little bit about what's been going on, if there's any news to bring up, anything going on in the Valorant scene. Right now, though, nothing too crazy is going on. VCT China is ahead of us and ahead of all the other regions. They're setting up. They've already finished their first round of playoffs and got their first two teams set to go to Toronto. That's going to be Wolves Esports and Shilai Gaming. Not super familiar with the China region, and we're also not focusing on the China region. We're focusing on North America, so that doesn't mean anything for us. But it is just interesting to note that the schedule is that different between China and these other regions: North America, EMEA, Pacific,
Yeah,
etc.
because we were just saying as well, EMEA still they don't have their teams for playoffs yet.
Mm,
Because they still have one more week of games.
yeah, yeah, exactly. They're a week behind everybody else, and even at the beginning of the year, China was way ahead of everybody, and I believe EDG and Trace had qualified for Bangkok even about a week or two earlier than the other two teams.
Yeah, I remember that being a huge point of contention on Twitter, I think is where I saw it, where it was a bunch of the coaches were like, this is really unfair that these teams get this long of a break between qualifying for Bangkok and actually going to Bangkok and playing.
Yeah. Hindsight being 2020, we know that it didn't really matter that much for them, I guess, because Trace kind of bombed out and was easily the worst team at the tournament. And EDG still made a good run. They made a deep run, but the problems that they had during that kickoff tournament kind of kept on arising, where they couldn't use that extra time that they had to fix the issues that they had. So it seems like it
Yeah.
didn't really matter as much as people were making a big deal about. But that is really the only news that's going on. There were patch notes last week, but none of them were of any note. Really nothing to bring up is going on right now. So what we'll do is, I think that we probably should just use this opportunity to dive into this last week's games. Um, and I think no better place to start than with G2 and C9. And I mean, you're a C9 fan or an Oxy fan
I
at the very
I am
least,
okay, specifically Oxy and Zeppa.
right?
I love both of them. Their energy is one of my like it's so fun. I love it.
Yeah,
I had so much hope because they beat G2 on one map, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, like, is this happening? Are they gonna be the team that finally beats G2? Are they gonna be the team that finally makes them lose a match this split?"
yeah.
And then it didn't happen. But it was because didn't C9 choose Lotus?
That's what I'm looking up right now. Actually, I think
Because I was pretty sure like there was a team that chose Lotus against G2.
right.
And I was just like, everyone was baffled because it's one of those things where at this point, G2 are 0-9 on Lotus. Like, they have not lost a
Yeah.
single Lotus game.
So this game there was no Lotus pick. It went
Oh, there wasn't?
map one was Icebox where G2 just destroyed them.
Yeah.
Um, Leaf just popped off and they had a masterclass on that map. And then
Yeah.
map two was Haven where Cloud9 did the exact same thing to them. And
Right, because that was when Emmy told them just don't respect them.
exactly, yes, which
Right,
is such a
okay.
base thing to say in an interview, by the way.
Yes, I love Emmy. He is so funny.
Yeah. And the thing that I took away from this though, it is the fact that Emmy was able to say what he said, the guys listened and they kind of locked in from that. I think that if you're going to look to make a deep run, and I would be of the mindset for me C9 is probably the third team, if not even the second team going to Toronto from Americas. I think G2 is
Yeah.
for sure locked in as number 1. I don't
I
think
100%.
I don't think that
Unless they
anybody
like
can
fall apart.
say exactly. I don't think that anybody can say that G2 is not going or is not the best. You'd have to be huffing some pretty serious copium if that's the case. But uh, Cloud9 is for sure. I would put them second. I think that they're better than just about every other team in the Americas region, and honestly, could even take it to G2 in a best of five.
Yeah, that's true.
But my point with that, I guess, is that if you're going to be looking to make a deep run into a tournament, or if you're going to be looking to make waves when you go to an international, you need to have a coach like Emmy who's going to be able to just say what he needs to say. The team responds, the team listens, and it just flips a switch in them, and they can go do what they need to do.
Yeah, exactly. I think Emmy definitely has that mentality that he's able to just talk some sense into them, just be like, "You guys are better." Like similar, I
Yeah.
think, because I watch a lot of the Sentinels voice comms,
Hmm.
and they show a lot of Kaplan's, talks with the team, and he's always just saying, "You guys are better than the other team. Like you know you're better than them." And whether or not that's true is debatable, but it's one of those things that just hearing someone tell you, "Hey, you're better," like
Yeah.
having that kind of confidence, I feel like that's such a huge underrated thing because it's one of those things where everyone's like, "Oh, well, yeah, he's saying you're better, but are you really?" But it's like, no, you have to believe you're better if you want to win.
Yeah, exactly. And he's been with these guys for so long now as well that
Yeah,
it helps that he can say things like that. And guys like Zeppa and Oxy are going to latch onto that and really be able to step it up when they need to, exactly like that.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
and Oxy was frying on Haven.
Yeah.
I, I mean, he's frying most of the time, unless the other team can like find a way to shut him down. Oh my gosh, the kid's just popping off every game. It's insane.
Yeah, it was kind of insane. Oxy went +6 on Haven. But I mean the whole team outfragged. I mean they were
Yeah,
all positive, which that's why Haven was so dominant the way that it was. And then we got to Pearl, and that's when Oxy kind of fell off. He went -8 there, and he
yeah.
had a lot of entry, which a jet on that map, that's really all they can do. But there wasn't a ton of follow up. I mean he was one out of 7 first kills, the first death. So I mean he was making space. He just couldn't get the shots landing when he made the space. So
C9 won the double duelist comp, right?
yeah, they did the Zeppa was on the Yoru,
Yoru, yeah.
and
Okay.
yeah, so it
Because I think Zeppa and Yoru have like he's very good. I want to say.
yeah, I would agree. I think that he did really well. And I think that he has been doing very well this whole season. He's kind of shown the haters that he kind of belongs on C9 and should stay there.
Yes.
Um,
Because I
this
remember a certain Lance was telling me last season that Zeppa was washed.
I, I was not in the minority on that. I was in the majority of people who
No, I
thought that Zeppa
know.
was not doing very well.
My point here is that I'm right and that Zeppa is not washed.
Yes, no, that is very true.
I am a
He is
Zeppa
not.
truther.
Yeah, no, he's kind of he's picked it up when he needs to, and he led the team in kills the last series and ACS of 206. I mean, he was
He's
insane.
insane.
The whole team, the whole C9 team is kind of hitting their stride right now, and I think that going into the playoffs here, what we need to see from them is they have to come out strong, they have to come out fast, and they only need to win two to get to Toronto. You know,
Yeah,
they win this first one, and even if they lose the next one, they can still run through the lower bracket. Obviously, that would be classic C9 choke, but the
yes.
hope is that they can make it through and just two games, then they're in Toronto, and then they can that's dispelling the choke narrative.
Yeah, and especially because it's been a while since C9 have been to an international tournament, right? Like in Valorant at least.
Yeah,
It's been a bit.
I was listening to somebody the other day, and I think that they were saying it was 2021 champions.
Oh, okay.
Don't quote me
So
on that, but it has been a very long time since C9 has been to an international.
yeah, okay. Yeah,
So
because I remember that's been like one of the huge narratives is that if C9 are able to like make it to this international, it'll be incredible because it's their first time, yeah, in 3+ years or whatever it is.
yeah, exactly. So it'll be huge for them. I think that it will be great if they can make it. I think that, I mean, we've spent the entire time about G2 Cloud9 talking about Cloud9, and obviously personal bias. You know, we're both
Yes.
excited about the team, and we're both excited about Oxy. But I do think that that speaks to the fact that this team is going places, and they're looking good, and they're hitting their stride right now. That being said, they went against the best team in arguably the world, and they took them to three,
Yeah.
which I think bodes well for the future. But what do you think that that means about G2? What did you see anything that you would take away from G2, and any worries, or is this just another day in the office?
I think, I mean, honestly, I gotta hand it to Jogamo specifically. He is fried on G2. He is absolutely incredible. Like, obviously, we saw him on EG last season.
Hmm.
Obviously, he's amazing. Um, but on G2, I feel like, and all the casters have been saying it. Like everyone I've seen talking about it has said that he really fits in really well with the G2 play style.
Yeah.
But I will say, because we were talking about on Haven how Cloud9 was told, "Hey, don't respect G2." I
Hmm.
think that that was one of the things that really caught them off guard, and they weren't able to adapt quickly. But then obviously, like they got the chat between games and were able to completely crush it in map 3. But it's still one of those things where it's like, if you have one of those things that is unexpected or whatever, like
Hmm.
an unexpected strategy, unexpected comp, even because there are going to be teams that have a comp that maybe we haven't seen, like maybe throw some kind of paper Rex style in there where they do a comp that shouldn't work but somehow does. Like
Yeah.
it's one of those things where how can we expect them to react to the unexpected pretty much? Like
Hmm.
are they going to be able to adapt, especially at an international tournament, which I have high hopes for them, which is unfortunate because I don't really like G2 all that much. But I can't knock them for being as good as they are. Like
Yeah.
they're just incredible.
They really are. I think part of it comes down to the the qualities that they have that makes them so good is that they have all these protocols in place so that they kind of know what to expect going into any situation. And so I think it is going to take a team like C9, a team that is going to be able to throw everything at them so much faster than they're used to actually beat them. I mean, we saw that with T1, where it was kind of the unexpected that caught them off guard at Bangkok, that they were able to
Yeah.
actually, overpower G2 from there. And obviously internationals are a little bit different from domestics, and I don't want to put too much weight behind that in comparison, but there is definitely something to say about the fact that that is kind of what has taken them to the edge before, and likely what we'll see take them to the edge moving forward as well.
Yeah, and I we keep talking about C9, but I feel like C9 is one of those teams where they have really high highs, but they also have really low lows, and there's hardly any in between for them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you've got the high ceiling, the even higher, or the high very high ceiling, and
Oh,
the decently high floor. And it's just which
yes.
C9 is going to show up that day.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, like, I feel like any day we can expect to see C9 beat a team like Furia or 2G. Um, but against like a team like Loud or EG, it's gonna be questionable, like which C9 are we getting today? Like, are they
Yeah.
gonna win? Are they gonna lose? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, which is thankfully different from the C9 of the past. I think that
Yes.
we used to have to worry about them going up against the lower teams, and will they actually be able to pull it out. Whereas now, like you said, it's pretty consistent that they're going to beat those lower teams. Now it's just,
Yeah.
can they consistently overcome these better teams, MIBR and G2 being the only two losses that they had this split. So
Yeah, which you can't fault them for. I mean, MIBR has Ospas now. Like, that's my
yes,
goat.
no,
I can't.
they are very good with Aspas. And actually, let's jump into that as well, because their game was the second one of the day, where Furia seemingly took them by surprise, maybe took them to
Yeah.
three maps rather. But ultimately, MIBR was always going to finish this one out. I don't think this game surprises anybody. I don't want to
No.
spend too much time talking about this one, but what did you see from it?
The only thing I would say is that I feel like people see Furia's scoreline of, oh, they've not won a match,
Hmm.
and they immediately assume like, oh, they're a terrible team. But it's like when you actually watch the games, they're close matches. Like
Yeah,
on each map, they take them pretty far most of the time, I want to say. I mean,
yeah.
obviously they have like the occasional getting stomped, but I feel like for the most part I've seen them be like pretty competitive, which gives me hope that maybe if they keep the same roster going into the end of this season and then maybe even kick off of next season or work on the off season or whatever in some tournaments, I feel like we could see a Furia revival even.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, we
Maybe
would
that's
love.
just hopium, but
I would think that that's a little hopium. I think that this team they've just lost any will at this point. I mean,
yeah.
they are easily the worst team in
Yes.
definitely America's. They're approaching the worst team in the world. They have one of the worst records in the world right now. I mean, their first map against Icebox, the fact that they even won the second map is insane, because their first map on
Yeah.
Icebox was 13-3, and it didn't even look close.
No.
Ospas
Getting
was,
getting 13-3, it sucks.
yeah, Ospas dropping 25 kills, 406 ACS. I mean, the man was doing insane normal Ospas things, but
Yeah.
the fact that they came back and won against Ascent, I do see your point. Maybe there is something there. Maybe there's something that Furia is cooking a little bit, and hopefully we see a more competitive version of them coming into Split Two. I mean, they're gonna have roughly 3 months off, because I believe Split Two starts in July, so they've got 2.5, 3 months off to prep and practice, and hopefully that will give them an opportunity to actually come back with some new things cooked up, and ready to kind of push for a win. Let's start there and see what happens.
I think honestly, getting even a single match win would be or series win, like that would be kind of showing them, okay, like we're on the right track. Now let's just build on that.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, going from one bottom team to another, we would be remiss if we didn't just mention 2G and Sentinels. It was a quick 2-0 from Sentinels,
Yeah.
and they looked
I
dominant.
They looked so good. I am very biased. Sentinels are my team.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, genuinely, they looked good. I mean, when you and I went to go watch, Narrate was the one that was kind of cooking a lot.
Hmm.
But Bane was doing very well.
Yeah.
during that game against 2G. But then the other thing, though, that we have to remember, 2G isn't the worst team in VCT Americas,
Right.
which is what we would expect to happen considering they just came up from Ascension,
Yep.
because they beat Loud. And Loud are like not an easy team to beat.
No, not at
Like
all.
especially since they got Luke Show. I'm like, there's no way 2G should have ever beaten Loud. Although, did they beat them before they got Luke Show?
They did. Yeah. So it
Okay.
was they beat.
That yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. They beat them. They beat them the week next week is when Loud picked up Luke Show.
The reason
Yes,
they're like, we
honestly.
got beat by 2G, get this guy out of here, bring in Luke Show. But also it was because they were waiting for Luke Show to turn 18, weren't they?
That's the rumor, but the also, I mean, it seems like they were kind of ready to go in a different direction, and it just so
Yeah.
happened that this kid was available at the right time. I think that was part of it as well.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit of both, but I mean, yeah, two G. Let's give them this. They look better than I think anybody expected, and they are only going to look better going into stage two. They're going to be getting their star duelist back, who that's who they were waiting to turn 18.
Yeah.
The kid that they ascended with, he had to wait until he turned 18 to be able to play on the stage, and so I don't put too much behind their record this split, knowing that next split, they're kind of at this point just pushing for playoffs next split, and they should be good to go.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, once they get their duelist, I feel like they'll actually be a contender. At least between the lower teams, which then means they do have a very good chance of getting into playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's really all that they need in order to even have a chance to stay in the partnerships program. So that's really all that they should be focusing on at this point in
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, which I hope
Um,
they do because they're fun to watch.
yeah, 100%.
Like the vibes on that team, they're very fun. I like them.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that they bring a good vibe, and definitely something that we need to see more of. It'll just be good to see the more of it if they're also winning at the same time.
Yes.
Yeah. Moving on from them, because we'll talk about Sentinels a little bit later on when we talk about the upcoming matches this week. But the last three matches, I mean, we can touch very quickly on Crew versus 100 Thieves. We'll also talk about both of these teams next. Crew kind of destroyed 100 Thieves. Just seemed like they kind of had their number the whole time, which was sad for me because 100 Thieves is my team, and so it was a pretty decisive 2-0. I mean, the score line was 13-10 Fracture, 13-9 Icebox, but 100 Thieves never really looked in control, and Crew just kind of walked all over them, it seemed. I don't know if you have any thoughts there, or if you want to save them for when we talk about them later on.
I mean, I don't know. Crew is just a very good team. Like there's no two ways about it.
Hmm.
They're just solid. And Kesnet, I mean, I feel like he's I don't know, he's so good and so consistent, I feel like is really what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. They were easily the best team in that group alpha. I
Oh,
think that they
100%.
were far and above Sentinels and 100 Thieves. So yeah, I think that the win was expected. Uh, we'll talk about 100 Thieves again when we talk about the predictions for the upcoming matches, but we'll just have to wait and see what happens with the rest of their season as we go into the bracket play. The other, I do want to talk about these last two games though, because I felt like the EG Loud game, for having really no implications, EG had already locked a spot into playoffs. It was way more hype than it needed to be. EG Loud went to three maps, and it went the distance. It was a very good game. Did you get a chance to watch any of it?
Think this is gonna sound so bad. I had the game playing the other night when I was about to fall asleep,
And it
and I
put you to
fell
sleep?
asleep in the middle of it. It's not that the game put me to sleep because the game
Right.
was exciting. I wanted to stay awake, but I was just so tired.
Yes. It was a long game too.
Yeah.
Um And if you were watching it back afterwards, thankfully you could skip through some of the pauses, but every single one of these rounds was about, or maps was about an hour long. So it was a almost 4 hour game with pauses in the middle, plus the breaks in between maps, things like that. So it was a very long game to watch live,
Yes.
because each one went 13-11 Lotus, 14-12 Pearl, 13-11 Split. So they went the distance all around there. I am very excited to see what Loud do coming into the next split. I think that Luke Show is he's going to be a menace, and this
Love that
Loud
kid.
team, the more practice that they get, again, they get about 3 months worth of practice. If they stay in LA, or even if they go in boot camp in Toronto with all the other teams fly out, they're going to look scary when it comes to split two, because Luke Show fries, Pancata is frying. Um, they've got just they've got the firepower. They've just got to get comfortable with each other and actually
Yeah.
play with each other now.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'll sing Luke Show's praises all day and all night. I'll shout it from the rooftops if I have to. That kid's insane.
Yes.
And he's like the other thing, and you and I were saying this when we saw the 100 Thieves versus Loud match. He's fun to watch as
Oh
well.
yeah. He gets hyped,
Like
and
he's like you can't even get mad at him for destroying your team because we having so much fun.
yeah. No, he's a rookie, but he doesn't act like a rookie. He's out here standing
Exactly.
up and yelling to the other team and everything
Acting
like
like
that.
Zelsis or Boostio or something, the way he's just like talking across the stage.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
S-
he's not scared of the veterans at
No,
all,
no, not at
which is
all.
really fun to see.
Yeah, no, he does very well. And yeah, he is very fun to watch. So I'm looking forward to them coming into stage two, just to see kind of what they're able to pull together, how they're able to fix the problems. Hopefully, it's. I think it just came down to it was a slow start, and that loss to 2G just really shot them in the foot. Because
Yeah.
if they had beaten 2G, I think that they would have very easily have been, on a different trajectory and likely in the playoffs over EG, had that happened. But at the end of the day, EG ended up beating them in the end, so maybe this was the way it was supposed to go. And we can talk again more about EG when we talk about the bracket, because they'll be playing again later this week too.
Yeah, for sure.
The last game of the week, and it was poetic that it would be NRG and Leviathan, two teams that have struggled beyond belief this season, uh, and it did not disappoint. It was
It was a good match.
it was a good match. It was an easy front on paper, or not on paper. It was a not easy 2-0, I should say,
Yeah.
for NRG to pull this one out. Um, what did you, and on top of that, NRG had to win in order to make it into playoffs. So what did you see in this match that stood out to you?
I feel like Energy finally clicked because every other
Mm,
match we've seen from them, I feel like, and I'm totally gonna sound like a hater, and it's because I am. FNS, his calling is just bizarre 90% of the time, I feel like.
oh yeah.
Hot take, maybe, I don't know, I don't really care. That's how I feel. I am not a fan of NRG.
Hmm.
Um, I like Mata. Mata's insane. Love that kid.
Yes.
Very talented. But yeah, the calling the FNS does most of the time, I just can't get behind. Like, I don't know, it confuses me. I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Like, what do you see in this that's actually going to work out well for you?
Yeah. It seems
But I
like
mean, hey,
he's
it worked out for them this
it
time.
it worked out for them this time, and so I wonder if there's something. I mean, internally, it seems like the team has got tons of stuff going on. I mean, they dropped Verno at the beginning of
Yes.
the
Oh my
split.
gosh.
There was all the things coming out about how he didn't want to try, and that's why they were dropping him, and whatever the reasons were. That it seems like at the end of the day they ended up making them up, or Verno was just a different person when he was on that team. But something internally was not working, and so them being where they're at now, they've made it through the split. They squeaked on into playoffs. They're going to be starting in that lower bracket, and they're not going to have a chance to mess up again. We'll have to see if FNS's calling is actually put them in the right place now. Are they finally meshing and clicking, like you said, at the right time? or was that a fluke? Was that a flash in the pan where they were able to squeak through against a, again, not very good Lev team who's also trying to find their footing
Yeah.
to make it into where they're at.
I feel like with Lev, I thought they'd made some good changes, because they had put Keen on Duelist instead of Demon 1,
Hmm.
which I feel like that was the right move, at least for the time that they did it, but then they put Demon 1 back on Duelist on one of the maps. But the
Yeah,
thing
they
is, he actually was
they
it on Lotus?
no, they put him on Jet for Icebox. They
That's
didn't
what it
actually make
was.
it to Lotus.
Okay, I couldn't remember, but I was like,
Yeah.
I remember he was on Duelist for one of the maps, and he actually did fairly decently, if I'm recalling the game correctly.
Yeah, he was
Um,
he was fragging. He was he went negative, but at the end of the day, he was making space, and his ACS was
yeah,
209. So if we're going just by stats, he did very well.
yes. So it's one of those scenes where it's like I feel like Demon One at this point is a fallen angel, kind of, because he's former champ, and now he can't even get into playoffs with his team anymore, and it's just one of those things where you kind of wonder, do you need to find a different role for him, like, permanently, or is this one of those things where it is you every map you just switch out, like, who's playing duelist or whatever?
Mhm.
So I feel like they're kind of starting to find their footing with that, which is promising to see, because I do like the ideas that Lev has, and I like the players, and I want to see them succeed, but it's just one of those things where I just can't see it happening currently.
Yeah, it seems like this is another example of, and I think I've said this about all the teams who didn't make it into the playoffs, but I sincerely believe that the teams who aren't making the playoffs have just such a unique opportunity to really just buckle down and figure out what went wrong and what can we do to fix this, because 3 months can be a long time, plus there's going to be a map rotation, plus there's going to be patches, and you will have the best opportunity to make the changes you need to, so long as the team has kind of sorted out the foundational issues. There's issues with the roles still, and if you're going to do it on a map by map basis, like have King on the Duelist one map, have Demon one on the Duelist the next map, you just need to have that confidence in your team that they're smart enough and able to actually do that, because Demon One can do it as he did in that Icebox game. It's just a matter of, does the team stand behind him? Does the team believe in him? And then he can hopefully keep on doing it and he can make it happen. So
Sure, and I do think there's still that champion of Demon One somewhere in there, because I saw him in an off-season game. I can't remember what the term was called, but it was the one where they had some of the Game Changers teams mixed with the VCT teams,
yeah,
and I don't remember him doing particularly well overall, I would say, but he had some like maps and some rounds where he like you could see it, like you could see like, oh, he's still there. Like that's
right.
still the demon one that won champs one time. Like, it's one of those things where it's like he's still there. It's just a matter of when is he gonna come back, or is he gonna come back full time?
Yeah, exactly. I think he's there for sure. I think that Valorant is such a heady esport, is not the right way to say that, but you get what I'm saying, where like, if you are in your own head, or if your confidence is just, if you're not hitting it, you can very quickly and very easily, I mean, you see this in your own games, right? Imagine being on the pro stage and playing against the best of the best, and then you're not in a bronze lobby, you're against all of these amazing people. Of course you're gonna like start getting in your head like, oh, can I do it still? Do I still have it? So I think it's definitely in there. I think it's just a matter of, can his team actually bring it out of him and give him the foundation, the help that he needs to get back to that form. That's the whole reason Leviathan picked him up, is because they think they see
Yeah.
that. So,
And I feel like I am a big fan of Calm on
mhm.
Leviathan. I think he is perfect for that team, and I think he and Demon One particularly, their chemistry as teammates is incredible, and I think that that is one of the things that is needed for sure for like them to stay teammates, for us to see the old Demon One come back. Because Calm, like oh my gosh, there's no words. He's so good. Um, Like, I genuinely, like, I don't know what it is about him necessarily that makes him such a good player, but I just know that he is. Like, he's constantly at the top of the scoreboard,
Hmm.
and he's constantly fragging out, like, he's constantly supporting his team from across the map half the time, and
Oh yeah,
it's one of those things that it's like, that's just such a good player, and one of the players that I feel like any team would be lucky to have.
absolutely. Yeah, and so then it comes down to, well, what do we need? What do we need to do? What do we need to fix in order to have this workout? And I think that that's hopefully what the team will be able to figure out going into this next upcoming off season, well, quote unquote off season. It's not actually an off season, obviously, but
Right.
hopefully,
Mid-season break.
exactly, yeah. Hopefully, they'll be able to use this time to really come together with some ideas and figure out what the team needs in order to make it work.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll see them come back a little bit more to that better form again in the second split. So,
Yeah,
we'll see.
exactly. Well, that was last week's games, and I think that there was, a lot to take from those games, a lot to see that can kind of influence what we're going to be talking about next, which is this week's upcoming games. This week will be week one of playoffs. We're going to be starting with those upper bracket teams rather, and then we'll be moving into some of the elimination matches on Friday, and it's going to be a long weekend, which is
Yeah,
awesome.
because they're playing 4 days, right? Thursday to Sunday?
Thursday to Sunday, yeah, and then the next weekend will
That's
be
right.
Friday to Sunday. So the the playoffs are actually going to run pretty quickly, which is going to be kind of insane. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. Starting on Thursday, we'll have games to watch. The first one coming up on Thursday is going to be MIBR versus 100 Thieves, and I obviously have bias, but even in my bias, I don't think that I can look at this match and think 100 Thieves can do it. I
I
think,
mean, PR Boss Boss. I'm sorry. Like, that feels like just a trump card right there.
but MIBR have Ospas, but 100 Thieves have Cryo, who is unarguably the
True.
best player in the world right now, stats wise.
Yeah, no, Cryo is insane.
So I think, I as a 100 Thieves fan, I think that that's what I personally am hoping for. That if there's an opportunity for them to win, it's going to have to come through Cryo. It's going to have to come through him and Boostio and the other members of the team, actually stepping up and playing as a unit. Because I think what we've seen a lot with 100 Thieves is they tend to they tend to be kind of lagging behind each other in the decisions that they make. And what I mean by that is Asuna will decide, especially when he's on the neon, he does this where he'll decide, oh, we're going to go in right now and
Mhm.
we're going to make these plays, but the rest of the team isn't necessarily in the correct place to do that.
Yeah.
I think it should hopefully be an easy fix. I think that they can figure it out and make it work pretty quickly and pretty simply. It's just going to have to take some practice and, again, opportunities from the team to actually work together to make it happen. But I think MIBR should be able to take them. I think it'll be close if 100 Thieves shows up. It should hopefully go to three.
Feel like if we get the 100 Thieves that we know there is, I feel like they'll take it to 3 at the very least, if not win, but winning is doubtful in my mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if 100 Thieves shows up, then it'll be a good game. But otherwise, it's just going to be a very quick 2-0,
Yeah.
and I think that we'll be looking for MIBR to make that deep run that we expect them to make in playoffs. I personally have MIBR probably as the third best team. I would put them over Sentinels at this point, going into uh, you know, say that they'll probably make Toronto over Sentinels, but
It's my soul to say that, but I agree.
I think that it'll be close though, because if MIBR wins, all they have to do is beat Crew. And if they beat Crew, then, they're in. And Sentinels, if they win, then they have to beat G2.
Yeah.
So it's a much harder road. I think that Sentinels could still do it, but I think that it's going to be a much harder road for them to actually make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where never say never, right? Like, there have been a couple games I'm thinking Sentinels specifically, where there have been certain players that have just started frying for no like discernible reason.
Hmm.
Like all of a sudden they'll have like the game of their life. And they're just like, yeah, I don't know what I did differently. I don't know what happened. I just played really well today. So it's like if we have another one of those days for any of the teams, really, it could totally turn all of our predictions on their heads.
Totally. Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think that, if Sentinel shows up as a team, it's what I was saying with 100 Thieves. I think that if they show up as a team, then it's going to be a very good game. It's going to be hard for them to lose. That being said, Sentinels has to make it through Cloud9 if they even want that opportunity. So the other game on Thursday is Sentinels Cloud9, and that I think is going to be a banger matchup because
Yeah.
both of those teams should be just everything, throwing everything at the wall and just seeing what sticks.
I think if and you and I have talked about this before as well, if narrate specifically doesn't get in his head,
Hmm.
I feel like Sentinels have a very good chance of beating C9. I'm not gonna lie. Like if we see the narrate and the Bane that have historically done very well in the last, couple of games that they've played, I feel like it'll at the very least go to 3, if not end up in a Sentinels win.
Hmm.
Um, Granted, there's also always going to be that X factor of, just luck as it is in video games.
Totally.
Um, and as well, like we said, if C9 is on one of their very high highs, then, GG's,
Right.
right? Like, it's really hard to beat them when they're on that high.
Absolutely. Yeah, it'll be this game. I think will probably be one of the best of the playoffs, if not the next game after that, which would be the G2 against whoever wins there.
Yeah.
I think that side of the bracket is just way more interesting and has the potential for way better games in all than MIBR and 100 Thieves versus Crew. Whoever
Yeah,
wins there goes against them.
I
But
feel like that side is more predictable than the side of Sen versus C9 versus G2.
yeah, exactly. No, I would agree with that. Well, those are the only two games that we know for sure are happening this upcoming week. So we'll probably leave it at that with predictions going forward. NRG and EG are in that lower bracket, like we talked about. If you had to put odds out of 100%, what would you say are the odds that either of them makes it to Toronto, NRG or EG?
They're so low. I mean, they've been beaten by every single team, like every other team that's in playoffs. So
Hmm.
I feel like I'd put it around, being generous, 30-45%,
That is
anywhere in that range.
that is way more generous than I was going to give them.
Like I said, I'm being very generous. I don't think it's gonna happen,
Right.
but I feel like again, it's one of those things, that X factor. If they show up, if they're there, like all these ifs.
Yeah.
Um, so it's hard to predict in some sense because we've seen how much a team can vary between, being really good, being really bad, all of a sudden doing like a 13-3 and then losing 3-13 like the next game or whatever. Like it's so inconsistent most of the time, I feel like, especially for those lower teams.
Yeah, the variance seems to be all over the place. It's really hard to be consistent when you're looking at them and predicting them, especially. So I totally get that. I think that this weekend's going to be really awesome. I mean, America's is second best region, I would say, in the world right now, and so I think that these games should hopefully prove that. And as long as we get good games, I think that really that's all I care about. I obviously would love to see 100 Thieves win. I would love to see both of our teams kind of continue on, but as long as they're good, that's at the end of the day all that I care about there. I guess the last thing that I wanted to go over with you and bring up before we ended, we have some segments and some ideas of segments that we'll be doing in the future. For this first episode, obviously, we're just trying to get our feet wet with it, just trying to figure out exactly what we can commit to, what we can actually do, and what makes sense. I put on here that we were going to do our pop flash segment, but I'll leave that as a kind of teaser for next time, maybe. But I wanted to get your thoughts. Who do you think are the three teams that are going to Toronto? If you had to pick them right now, who are they?
Would say G2,
Hmm.
obviously.
Obviously,
Or am I being realistic or am I being biased?
you have to decide. This is going on the internet, so you have to decide
No,
what you think is best.
they're gonna call me a fake fan. Um, G2. I want to say Sentinels because I feel like they always pull it out to go to an international tournament. Whether or not they'll do well at the international tournament is an entirely different story.
Yeah,
But
100%.
I feel like, because I mean, Bangkok, they went out first two matches, which was so sad.
Yes.
But I feel like they'll make it to the international tournament at the very least.
Hmm.
And then I want to put MIBR in there. I
Yeah,
want to say G2, Sen, and MIBR. Those are my three.
I think those are I think those are definitely possibilities. I think that G2 obviously is the number one choice, and you'd be a fool not to say that they're going.
Yeah.
Um, for
I
me,
think they'll be number one seed again.
oh, absolutely. I think they're going to win. They're going to win VCT Americas again.
I
Like
mean,
it's
VCT America. Sorry, I thought you were going to
yes.
say they're going to win Toronto, and I was like, I mean, you thought they were going to win Bangkok too, and they didn't. So
No, that's true. But nobody thought T1 was going to win Bangkok, so I don't feel so bad about
no,
that guess. Um, Yeah, I G2 for sure. They're winning VCT Americas. They're going in number one seed.
yeah,
It's gonna be an insane showing. Plus, it's in North America, so and some of them are Canadian, so maybe they'll get that home field buff.
there you go.
And I think that I would love to see Cloud9 make it to an international again. I think that it would be amazing if they could. I think that their run to get there is going to be tough, and they're going to have to prove the fraud allegations, the choking allegations, that they can actually do it. But there's definitely an opportunity for them to make it in if they can, or if they can lock in and at least win two games.
Yeah,
If they can win against Sentinels, even if they lose against G2, then I think that if they beat Sentinels, that should be enough to carry them through the lower bracket at the very least. So I definitely think that should happen. That's my hope. And then I think MIBR will probably be the third team. I think that Osbos is just in good form right now, and the rest of the team is playing really well around him. I don't really see how they wouldn't make it in at this point. They just
yeah,
they're on it right now.
yeah. They're really good, and I will say, I'm fully exposing myself here. I was not an MIBR fan before the season at all.
I
Literally, game changers team.
That's fair. Game Changers team will do that for you. But at the same time, there were only like 3 MIBR fans as well before Osbos
That's
joined them.
true. That is so true. I went to an MIBR match last year. I don't remember who they were playing against. And yeah, no one was an MIBR fan.
No. And nobody really is now. People are just Osbos fans
Yeah,
and fans of the
which
team
fair
there.
enough. I respect it.
Yes.
I'm also an Osboss fan. I will not be buying any MIBR stuff though, unless it's the Game Changers stuff.
There you go. Stick to your morals. Well,
There you
that's
go.
it for this first episode of Plant the Spike. Thank you guys for watching if you made it this far. And, this is maybe a different episode from what you'll see in the future. We'll have to just wait and see and figure out how it works, how it doesn't. But any final words for the fans?
Subscribe, like the video, join the Discord server,
Yes.
and buy the Sun bundle.
Buy the Sen bundle. The Sen merchant is in live on camera.
I bought the Sun bundle this year. I didn't do it last year, but I did it this year. And Apex. I bought the Apex bundle too. Gotta
Well,
support my girl Floor.
well, we're not an EMEA podcast, so we can't support that bundle. But
My love for Floor transcends regions.
that's fair. She is an NA native, so I guess we can go ahead and we can give her that. But that's going to do it for us tonight. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and for spending time with us. And if you're watching this later on, definitely make sure you like the videos, subscribe to the YouTube channel, find us on TikTok or Instagram. We're going to be hopefully making some short form content there as well. And if you want to see us live, join us on Twitch. We've got the Plant the Spike YouTube or Twitch channel rather. We've also got Stick in the Mud's YouTube as well, so you can find either of us there. And yeah, we'll just be trying to figure out what the best way to do this show is, how to make it more fun for you as the viewer and more fun for us. And it's just an opportunity for us to yap about Valorant. So nothing too crazy. But that's
Yeah.
going to do it for us tonight. So thank you again for all your time and hope you have a good rest of the week. We'll see you next week on Tuesday with some highlights from all the games and talking about what we think will happen next. So we'll see you
Well,
then.
exciting or heartbreaking?
Either or. That's just the way it goes.